Okay, hi, hello. This was on Reddit's Art Crit, and so here's an art critique. I am rather long winded, so I figured I would just make a recording because it's easier for me to show than to write multiple paragraphs telling. So overall, I think this is doing pretty well. I really like the pink and green. I think she's really cute, fun, hip anime. I'm going to guess Demon Slayer related. So these get kind of nitpicky. But I think you're ready for nitpicky, if that makes sense. Okay. First of all, I would crop it. I shrunk her down just a little bit. We don't want any toes to be cut off, because if you're going to crop, there are certain places to crop, and cutting off the toes not good. You either need to shrink her down a little bit or add a few extra pickles, add a few extra pixels at the bottom of your canvas. So let's get into it. I have shrunk her down so she has a bit more headroom, a bit more foot room. So number one, we'll start with the pose and anatomy. This leg is interesting. I'm not sure exactly what you meant when you drew it, but I think if you have her hips and you have her legs, one leg is standing straight, right? This is if we're looking straight on. And the other leg goes down to the knee, and then she's standing behind. But that's not what this conveys. So I would recommend looking at a few more models, a few more references to kind of get that anatomy down. I would say to fix this, I would go in with your with the line work. Let's get one of those darker colors. Yeah, I would go with her legs would be even until you get to the knee. And then it would go behind. And there's a bend here, so you would have the toe of the foot coming in here, and it would go out this way a bit, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to draw in a great amount of detail. There we go. We'll erase that. Okay. Another note. Again, these are getting kind of nitpicky, and I don't mean to be nitpicky. I mean, these are minor things that are just going to bump you up to the next level. Her belt. If she is wearing a belt, and it is across her waist like this, then yes. But it's just a little too uneven that makes me think it's misplaced. It should either come up a little bit so it's a little bit more obvious, or it needs to go down because this side of her hip is going to go down when her foot goes behind. It's one of those weird anatomy things. You can use a 3D model, but because a 3D model doesn't calculate for weight, it may not calculate that kind of thing. Next, her hand right here. I would look up more reference of people with a hand on their hip. Generally, what would happen is you would see less of the hand and more of the fingers on the hip, especially if she's at 3/4 view, because here's her belly button. That would be another note that this leg should be more in front of this leg since she is slightly turned this way. Then her hair would not come this far forward. It would fall down onto her shoulder, onto her breast, and then curve down. Let's find a better color to contrast that. Yeah, it would come down. Oh, there's so much color in there already. Okay, let's do orange. It would come down, it would rest here, and then it would come off like that. That would be the general shape of her hair. I would draw like a single rectangle and then add her little braid pleat things. They're pretty cool. Her hair is really cool. One more on anatomy, and that is this hand. That is just a weird pose for someone to kind of stand like that. You drew the hand very well. It's just the position of the hand, I would change that to be something more natural. Okay, and then you were asking about the shading. So I would add here a bit more shading since the arm is up. I would add a bit more shading because I assume your light source is coming like that. So I would add a bit more shading there. More shading where her hair is to show this. So a few things happen when there are breasts. One is that this is going to come, they're going to push aside her top fabric depending on how thick it is. And then there was a little shape in here that would not exist. Oh, those are buttons. These little shadow shapes would not exist this low. They're still under this shadow. You would start to see that shadow would go away about here. So the shadow on her skirt's a little weird. The only way the breasts are going to cast that long of a shadow is if it's a very strong light. But generally you're going to have it under this and in the pleats of her skirt. And then since your shadow is on one side, you might have a little bit on this side as well. Let's see. There would also be shadow from her braid over here. I'm doing this very quickly. You did a wonderful job, and I'm sure your actual shading process took much more time than what I'm doing to your poor friend here. And then with the legs, this leg will cast a shadow onto that leg, so there's going to be a slight little shadow right here. I love the stripes on her socks. And then this knee will have more of a shadow as it goes behind her. There we go. My only other addition would be, rather than a white background, to use a gray background so you can see a better representation of the colors. Especially since she's already wearing white, she's not going to stand out very much from that. But those are the things that I've noticed. Again, they're fairly small overall. You have a lot of strong pieces, but as the elements come together, they need a little bit more of a cohesive look. Since her face tells me she looks like an extrovert, she looks like she's very happy, I would actually consider a different pose for the legs than one kind of behind the other. I would go for a more assertive stance, or maybe all the weight on one leg and the other leg kind of out to the side. More of a power stance, if you know what I mean. So that's all I have. Great job. Awesome character. She looks fun. And interesting. Looks like a Demon Slayer character, but I don't know for sure. I'm not up to date on all my anime. And that's all I have. Stay spicy.